Welcome to the Zellenformer podcast. My name is Alfred Tabex, and today I'm joined by two regulars now. We've got Nate in one corner,
Hi.
and we've got Andy in the other.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so this week we're going to get a little spoilery. Just mostly, again, talking about Breath of the Wild. We don't have a lot of news. We're getting some small things out from Breath of the Wild, people discovering different things. But I kind of, again, wanted to talk about our experiences now that we've had, 2 weeks-ish to play the game. And just kind of our experiences about it, some of the things we liked and didn't like again, and some of the things that we've discovered since then. And Nate, have you finished the game yet?
I have beaten the final boss.
Okay.
Excellent.
So we can go into that kind of spoiler territory. So if you're worried about spoilers for the game,
Run.
Yeah, run. Just get out of here. This one is not for you. So we're gonna talk about
Bookmark it and come back later though, because it'll be interesting.
after you finish. Yeah, we'll talk about some of the things. First, I want to talk about story and our impressions of the overall story. Now that we've all finished it, what we liked, what we didn't like. This can even include some gameplay elements of story, like boss fights or dungeons, and just that kind of area, voice acting, whatnot, the story in general. So let's just start with you guys. Like, what were your general impressions of the main story of the game?
We touched on this a bit last week, Nate. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, it's very interesting. It's interesting to me. Like, I haven't unlocked every memory yet, so there's still some bits of the backstory that I don't really fully know. Obviously, particularly between Zelda and Link's relationship. Heck, I didn't even do all 4 of the Divine Beast. I did 2 of them, and then went and kicked Calamity Ganon's ass.
Really? Good on you.
Yeah, well, I died the first time, and then I came, like, I went and got a bunch of ancient arrows thinking they'd help. They don't help in that fight at all. At all. They're pointless against Calamity.
Did you use an ancient bow?
No, I did not.
That helps.
I had the ancient shield, which didn't matter because I also had the Hylian shield, so it really was irrelevant. And I think I just used the Master Sword the whole time. And I broke like 2 bows against him, but I basically just used bomb arrows. I don't know. It was once I got the second time fighting him, I actually got like the hang of the mechanics of the fight. Because the one thing I sucked at is dodging. Because I have not like dodged a whole lot. I've been
me neither. I ended up kind of running around, waiting for Daruk's protection to come back.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to do the first time, and it was I was fighting him for like an hour straight. Just waiting for that protection to come back up. And then I don't know if I had like hand fatigue or something, but I made a mistake and I was all out of food and I made a mistake and got hit and that's what took me out. And I was very mad about it because there was no way I hadn't gotten hit for like 40 minutes. And then I just screwed up and died. And I got so mad because I'm like, I didn't wait. He only had like maybe 10% health though. I was so mad that I screwed up. But I'm like, whatever. This is not obviously the best way to fight him. It shouldn't be an hour-long battle.
Yeah, for me it was, I mean, I went through and went ahead and did all the shrines, so I had max health and max stamina when fighting him. And plus I had the Guardian chestplate, which, and I had upgraded it twice, so that added 12 defense on top of my 4 defense for my pants and my, I think, 8 for my headgear. So I had like a relatively large defense there, about 24 overall, and I had all 4 divine beasts, so that took away half of his health. So right from the beginning of the fight, I didn't have that much to go off of. I think the only trouble I had was when I got to the point where you have to deflect the lasers back at him. Because I'm so bad at parrying. Just in any game I play, I am awful at parrying. Witcher, Breath of the Wild, just any time where I have to parry in order to execute an attack. Oh gosh, Bloodborne, for example.
Yeah,
it does not work.
I was kind of hoping that there would be some kind of play on the classic like like tennis match where you bounce on the back at him or whatever. Because I
it-
can do that, but parrying was hard.
He launches this fireball at you, and so I was like, "Oh, I hit it back. That's obviously." And so he launches the fireball, and it blows up, and it like took out.
It blows up like half the arena.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, there goes half of my health." Because I hit it with the sword, and I was like,
"Yeah, you either run away from it or shoot it in the air. You're done."
Yeah, I thought because I'd only seen it one other time, and I think it was against
It was against one of the blades. Yeah, Fireblade.
And he uses it I think he used it once, and it didn't kill me. It just takes away half of my health because I had a lot of health. But I was like, oh.
And when you were fighting Fireblade too, you threw a bomb back at him. So like I tried to do that at the first time, and then the bomb exploded, and then I got hit by the thing.
Well, the difficult thing for me for the parrying was that you couldn't hit him unless you parried or unless you managed to dodge a specific attack at the right time. Because he had that like invulnerability on him. So it was definitely like for me. I was actually kind of disappointed because the entire fight felt really easy. Even the second phase was ridiculously easy.
The second phase was a joke. Like I didn't even ride the horse in the second phase. I just kind of casually ran around to the left. Shot and
the second phase is just stay away from his head till the end. It really wasn't that hard. I guess you can call it third phase. Because, like, the beginning of the fight is, well, maybe not for Alfred, since he didn't have the beginning of the fight.
Oh, yeah, you have the beginning, then he goes into the second half.
Yeah, you got the beginning until the second half of the fight, and the second half of the fight is when you can't, like, hit him with anything unless you reflect the laser back, which is probably the easiest method. Or, as I was trying to say, you can dodge. Do a flurry rush right after, and I suck at that. So I ended up, the second time I fought him, I ended up just doing the reflecting laser. The thing is, I wasn't really any good at that during the game. Like, I could never reflect the lasers back at the Guardians very well. Mm-hmm. But I just realized that I just have to get good at it. It's really not that hard. You just have to time it. Like, it's just a timing thing. So is the dodge, but for some reason, I can never time the dodge right. So I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll just rely on...
I didn't know you could reflect the lasers back at the Guardians until just now.
I didn't know until there was a video of some guy taking out 2 Guardians at the same time, and then he selfied, and it was awesome.
I knew because at E3 last year, one of the Nintendo guys did it on the stream.
Oh, okay.
He reflected it off it. I don't remember what shield he was using, because you can reflect it with like any shield, but if it's like a wood shield, you're done. Like that shield breaks.
Really? I thought it was a Guardian shield only that did it.
No, you can. I use the Hylian shield. It worked just fine.
Yeah, you can use any shield to do it, but basically, unless it's a high level shield like the Hylian shield or the Guardian shield, it's gonna break. So you only can do it once. And I'm guessing that most people with the Korok seeds didn't sit there and upgrade their shield inventory a ton.
Yeah,
maybe they did because maybe they like shield surfing everywhere. I don't know.
I think the thing for me at the last phase against the Dark Beast Ganon, which was the pig that we've all come to know and love, was like it's easy on a horse to be able to ride around Ganon because the different lights appear at different areas on his body, like left side, right side, underneath, and the forehead. And so you have the horse because it's fast and it's quick, and there's also a mini game early on that actually prepares you for this. It's maybe not early on. It's in Farron, and you go into it and you're on your horse firing arrows at targets.
Oh, see, I didn't do that mini game.
Yeah,
I had the option to do it, but I skipped it. I'm not really huge on horses in this game. I don't really like the way that they control.
Well, I did it initially. Like, I had to restart because I eventually ran out of arrows. All my bows broke doing this. And the first time I restarted, I got it right away. Got the Knight's Bridle for the horse. But when it came to the Ganondorf battle or the Ganon battle, I didn't remember which horse I had equipped because I'd taken one out a long time ago.
Sure.
And the horse I had equipped for it, and I'll have a screenshot. I'll try to export it and put it up here. The horse that I had equipped was the giant horse.
Oh, I know. I haven't caught him yet.
The giant horse.
If you have it, it has. You can only basically like speed it up, quote unquote, speed it up once, and then it kind of sprints, but it's very slow. And it does not corner well at all.
Oh, I can bet he doesn't corner well.
I'd be running, and then I'd run straight into Ganondorf's or Ganon's leg, and then I'd fall off the horse, and he'd go running, and then I'd have to call him back. I think that was the most frustrating part of this, is because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know I need a horse.
You
and
probably
that was the
didn't have
one
him
horse.
fully trained either.
But you didn't
No.
need a horse. Like I got off my horse like instantly, and I had Epona, but I just did. I don't know. I didn't want to mess around
Yeah.
with that, so I just got off and ran and
Yeah,
shot
see,
him.
the horse mechanics were all fine to me. The only
Yeah.
thing I didn't like about the horse mechanics is that as I'm trying to slow down my horse to talk to an NPC, I have to hold down my target button and hit a different button while I'm trying to slow him down.
Mm-hmm.
That was annoying. I think...
Well, that and
I don't know if there were... I don't know. I feel like if my camera is pointing towards the guy I want to talk to, while I'm on my horse, I should just be able to hit A to talk to him.
Well, and
or
it's
something,
annoying
but-
because that also sometimes will make your horse go faster. And so I'd
Yes.
be like walking by an NPC,
Yes.
and it's like press ZL and A, and I'm like, okay, and then I just go bolting off in a different
Yeah,
direction.
that was the only thing I didn't like about the horse controls. Otherwise, I'm like, it was mostly fine. Horses do run into trees. EJ Noah is way wrong.
Well,
I
they
know.
ran into everything. I just always felt like I was never quite going the way that I wanted to. Like, he was always veering slightly to the left or something.
Well, they
like that.
basically, unless you're on a road, they don't really go where they're supposed to. They just kind of
Yeah.
go straight. And they will either run into what's in front of them or jump over it if they can.
Well,
Which
they
is,
don't
I guess,
necessarily-
fine. Like, the horse isn't going to know what I want him to do in the middle of a field. So, like,
They
I
don't
could
necessarily run into stuff, though.
Yeah, like I thought they do. I thought the horse would do a little more avoidance. And I did notice some horses avoid things better. Like when I got Epona avoided things better than my 2-star horses did.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea if the giant horse avoids anything. He probably just tramples everything over. The thing's bigger than most of the trees in the game. I swear.
It's just like kind of it'll run into stuff, and then it'll be a pain in the butt to.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
plus
maneuver-
it doesn't help
maneuver.
if you don't have the max bond with it.
Oh yeah, no, that's so hard to get with that.
That's
horse.
why I think that's one reason why Epona actually controlled so well. It wasn't that it was Epona; it's that it's max bonded to you right away. So like,
Which is nice.
the giant horse, I've seen some people that on YouTube who have a max bond with the giant horse, and like they're doing all these crazy things with it because the horse does everything they want it to do.
It's so ridiculous.
Except it doesn't corner well, but it's a giant freaking horse. It ain't gonna corner well. It's just like getting in a semi truck. It's not gonna corner well. There's not much you can do about that. But no, like getting back to maybe some of the story. I think what's interesting to me is so far my favorite parts of the story weren't told in the cutscene. They were told in books in Hyrule Castle.
Mm-hmm.
2 books in particular. Obviously, like the biggest one is Zelda's personal diary. That is just so cool. The details that are in there about how Zelda feels about Link. Like clearly, there is like she wants to date him, but she doesn't know if it's appropriate, kind of thing.
Well, at first she hates him too.
Yeah,
First she hates him,
but
which
yeah,
is good.
and then she grows to admire him after he like does a heroic deed and saves her, which is what he's supposed to do. Like that's his job.
The King's Journal was also really
Yeah,
really
I
interesting
haven't
to
find
see
the
how
King's Journal
he,
yet.
He kind of knows that Zelda's gonna grow up resenting him, but is pushing on ahead anyways.
Yeah, you know, I kind of got that feeling in the one cutscene in between Zelda's study and her room.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the King's kind of being an asshole, but I think he's got a point.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm just missing that key story element that gives me the point. And you know, I haven't found his diary yet. I know it's in there somewhere. I only went to Zelda's room and Zelda's study, and then I beat Ganon. That's all. I haven't really fully explored Hyrule Castle, so I haven't gone to the King's room yet. Which I'm assuming is probably on the other side of the castle somewhere.
It's in. If you've done the recipe side quest, it's in the same room as that.
I haven't
The
done the recipe
library.
side quest yet. So.
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, I'll find it eventually. I gotta go back and explore. I'm off doing the Gerudo area right now, so. So it's just really cool to see how her feelings changed for Link over the course of events happening, and like how she used to get mad at Link for like not talking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, classic Link doesn't talk, and then she finally asked him about it, and he did speak to her, and told her why he doesn't talk. And I think this is the most interesting reason ever given for why Link doesn't talk, like ever. Because of the burden.
There really hasn't been a reason given.
Well, no. The reason's always in player agency, making us more connected to the character. Like, Link is talking, but he's not going to talk. Like, even in this game, there's things when it asks you a question, you're clearly talking because you're answering the question. So like Link talks, but like it gives you a reason for why he barely talks. And the reason is fantastic. I don't know why they didn't just have this said in another game before. Having to do with the burden he carries, and many people relying on him.
Today, and we were watching a cutscene, and he's like, "This seems weird that Zelda's talking, but Link's not." So I kind of told him about the book or whatever, and why he doesn't talk. So I think they could get away with it before a little bit more because there were no other voices, per se. But this game, they needed that explanation definitely a lot more.
Well, it's just really cool because like the explanation for it is like that's mad respect.
It
man.
makes total sense.
Like of course he doesn't want to say something wrong. There's too much pressure on him.
I think one of the most telling things about Link was during that scene that you're talking about between her father and Zelda. Mm-hmm. When her father walks out, Link like drops to his knees and bows before the king.
Yeah.
Like that's his character, and even at one of the points where she's talking about destiny, she's like, "Well, your father was a knight, Link, and then you're following in his footsteps." So it's not like Link was the chosen one by any means at the beginning. He was a knight assigned to Zelda.
Yeah, he was basically assigned to protect Zelda. That was his job. Like the job that we usually see Impa doing, that was Link. Link was there. Like Zelda was supposed to be the savior, and supposed to uncover her magical abilities, which the ancient textbook says she's supposed to have. Which obviously, I mean, we know based on Zelda lore that Zelda is the reincarnation of Hylia.
Well, in this one,
at least in one game,
having the blood of Hylia flow through her, so it's probably a royal thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that whole Hylia thing just kind of that's why, like, Zelda has one part of the Triforce, but why does Link not have magical abilities, but Zelda does?
And speaking of, actually, how weird is that you go from start to finish in this game and the word Triforce isn't used once?
Yeah.
Well,
it's totally strange.
A lot of this like has to do with the setting of the game, I feel like, because this game takes place 10,000 years basically after anything that's ever happened in the Zelda series. At least, I'm sorry, 10,000 years after Ocarina of Time was the official statement of the game.
Yeah.
So we know that all the other events in the timeline, based on what we've been told and what the official timeline says, all happened basically within 500 to 1,000 years of Ocarina of Time. Outside of Skyward Sword, we're not quite sure how far before Ocarina of Time that happened. So we're so far in the future of any possible events that it feels like a lot of Hyrule's history kind of got lost. Like even when they're talking about, even when you're going along and you're looking at all the ruined places, like you could find like a ruined Lon Ranch, and it's like, okay, did Calamity ruin that, or did that just degrade over time, and that's just what happened? Because we're 10,000 years in the future. There's no way everything was exactly the same 10,000 years later. I mean, you could even tell, like in the couple cutscenes I've seen at Hyrule Castle, I'm like, dude, I already know what I want the DLC to be. I either want it to be.
I think it makes sense that the DLC is going to be 100 years prior, Link fighting the battle in that field.
Yeah, it's got to be something like I want to explore Hyrule Castle before it broke down, or I want to restore Hyrule Castle.
Or I want to explore Zelda.
Sure, yeah, that too. Like, there's a lot of possibilities. It's just I got this feeling watching all these cutscenes at Hyrule Castle that I'm like, dude, I want to explore this place. I can't because most of it's wrecked.
Well, I can't spoil this for you because you technically haven't gotten the true ending of the game.
Yeah.
But there is credence to you wanting to like have like a post where you restore the land.
Well, yeah, and there's like the story is weird to me in some regards.
It's definitely not like a point narrative. You've got to put in work to get the full story.
Well, I actually love that approach about this game.
I think that was the best possible approach.
Like, there's people who have now beaten the game in like an hour
anywhere and do this.
Yeah. Like it's like that's the thing. I beat the game, right? I basically, the only reason I took out Calamity Ganon, one, because I walked into the room by accident the first time.
Yeah, that's happened before.
I was just trying to explore the castle, right? So I'm like, oh, there's no way heck you just... Because, like, when has there ever been a final battle that doesn't go through any sort of dungeon? So I'm just like, oh, well, I'm going to walk into here. Maybe Zelda's room is up here or something. And I'm like, oh, nope, I'm fighting some bosses I'd never beat. Oh, now I'm fighting Ganon. There's no breaks. This is fun. Didn't plan on that, but I'm not going to back down. Then he killed me. And, well, my attitude, as soon as someone kills me, I got to step up to the challenge and go kick his ass. So it's like, okay, you killed me. I'm not running away and getting stronger. I'm going to come back just knowing now that that's what's going to happen and actually be slightly prepared. I obviously didn't even prepare ideally because I spent a little time getting ancient arrows, and turns out I didn't really need them because they don't do anything in the game.
For me.
They did like Jack Squat.
I hit him prepared, and he still spanked me.
Yeah, I hit him in the head like
I
10
the
times.
all the way up to 32.
Yeah, I hit him in the head like 10 times with ancient arrows,
there.
and they were doing just as much damage to him as bomb arrows were. So I'm like, well, that was a waste. I stopped using. I had like 30 ancient arrows. I stopped using them at that point. Still have them because I need to farm some parts to get some of the gear, but it's just.
So, speaking of gear, really quick. So I had the hood, the pants, and the tunic. So my overall defense level when I went and beat him was like 72. I want to say
way higher than me.
So right now I have when you complete all of the shrines, you get the classic like green tunic and
the tunic
and
of the
cap
wild
and pants and stuff. So yeah, I'm upgrading the tunic of the wild, and I've almost got all of it upgraded. I'm missing 2 star fragments, which are a biatch to track down.
Yeah, I don't even have one.
So yeah, I got to get 2 more of those, and then once that's done, that'll be the highest armor set in the game, and you'll have something like 84 or something like that.
Yeah, I beat him with 14 defense.
Well, like in order to upgrade that tunic, first you have to get 2 scales from each dragon to get it to the next level, and then different parts from each dragon to get it to the next level. And those are hard to get. Like eventually you have to get the horns and the talons and the fangs.
Yeah. Like
I spent most of the last 2 days farming those. I have exact locations and times where I know that the dragons are going to be. So like, when you get that pattern down, it's okay. But
I haven't even fought a dragon yet.
Well, you don't really fight.
But
them.
you don't fight. Well, you kind of fight one, I guess.
Well, okay. Let me backtrack. I haven't even seen a dragon yet.
Well, you don't fight them. You use them to get items, but they will attack you if. Well, that's not true. There is one dragon you fight. You're right.
So
sorry.
So the dragons all have elements based around them, right? So like the ice dragon, for example, when you get close to him, will have like icicles or whatever that can hit you, right? Because the only way you're getting close is by sailing. So the closer you get to them, the better chances you are of getting hit with ice or fire or whatever.
And then Nadra. That one's Nadra, right? They're all named after the goddesses to some extent.
Woo!
I think there's Nadra, Farosh, and
Dinral. Yeah.
Nice.
I think again, like we were talking about this last week, and there's a few moments in this game that are like key moments for me. But every time one of the dragons shows up and I see them like going by and hear the music, it's probably one of my favorite moments in the game. It's like it's just so beautiful. Like, if there's a testament to how amazing this game is visually and musically, it's right there. Because that's probably one of the most stunning moments in the game. You almost don't want to do anything. Like, sometimes I've just caught myself sitting there like, man, that is just a work.
So I had the music down the other day, and I was just kind of schmucking around over in Farron, and I was at the bottom of a waterfall, and like I look up and like Farosh was right there, like couldn't have been more than I don't know, like a couple feet away from me, in game. It was awesome, and then I got zapped.
Yeah. In terms of again its story, there's something that I was worried about going into this game, and my fear was kind of not acknowledged, but it was proven. I'm not one of those people that prefers subs over dubs. Like I'll watch dubbed anime. I've got a Funimation account, so I like listening to the dubs. I also have Crunchyroll, so subs are fine. I'm not preferential. And I loved Daruk's voice, and Rivali is probably one of my new favorite characters.
Really, he's such a prick.
I know, but like he is Falco, but like he's one of the characters because this is my favorite part of the story of this game is you see how people don't just randomly like Link. In every game so far that's had a story, people are like, oh, well, he's so amazing. You do this stuff for me and we like you. Like, Rivali doesn't like him right off the bat. Mipha's grown up with him, so she likes him. And they all just kind of have to get used to him. And Rivali doesn't like him until later on when he's like, I don't see what's so important about you. Why everybody likes you. But then eventually he's like, you know what? It's like, you are a true knight. You are a true hero. So that realization for him as a character that, Link is who he is. Like, and that's not a bad thing. So I like what little character development there is of Rivali, it's there, but I like the fact that not everybody likes him. Even if you go to Zora's Domain, a lot of the Zoras don't like Link from the beginning, because of what they
pretty much all
what
the elders.
Did. Yeah, they're like, well, you took Mipha from us, and she's dead because of you. That's pretty much how that goes. There's the king's advisor, the priest. There's like 2 other people that just don't like Link, and that's new and that's awesome.
Yeah, they kind of made me feel like an asshole.
I know.
Like that whole Zora area, I kept thinking, man, is everyone dead because of me? Yeah, like, these champions, did I get them killed? Because I don't know what happened. So I'm just like, it doesn't matter. Like, Mipha, we learned, about how her feelings for Link, and it's like, yeah, but still, am I the reason she died?
Yeah. And I think that, again, like, kind of going back, like, I like the voice acting for them. I wish there was more. Is one of my biggest complaints, because you get to those scenes with, Sidon, which for some reason...
Okay, so I really liked all the voice acting. Like, I'm weird. Okay, I recognize that, like, 80% of people out there thinks this voice acting is terrible. But I loved it. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's the first time Zelda's done it, and I've been wanting them to do it for so long.
I'm with you. I thought Zelda's voice actress was spot on. Like, she sounds like I would expect royalty to sound.
I don't see that was going to be my biggest complaint. Was like, aside from the fact that I wish there was more. Like, I didn't like the fact that I like that we heard Sidon, and then the different like the Gerudo, and then everybody, like, they had small speaking roles, but you really didn't hear them talk after a certain point. I was like, I want to hear more. I want to hear them more, because I like, not necessarily like their voice, but I like their voice giving them character.
Yeah.
Zelda took, like, she had a mixed performance, because some scenes were great, some scenes were and some scenes just were like, you're kind of killing this for me. And that's the part where I really wish I could have had the Japanese voice actress, because I was like, well, I wonder how she sounds and how she conveys the different emotions. Because at first when I heard Zelda's voice actress, it honestly sounded like, this is going to sound so mean, and I don't mean anything by it, but it sounded like a guy pretending to do a girl voice. And I'm sorry. There's no other way. Like, that's what I thought when I first heard it. I was like, there's no way. Like, it did grow on me. Like, towards the last scene of the game, I was like, okay.
The last scene in that last quote she gave was great.
Yeah, like, afterwards, like, it was mostly the beginning. Like, the beginning of the game, like, it kind of seemed, honestly, like, as Zelda was finding her place, so was the voice actress. And she slowly got better throughout the game, and, like, finally to the point where it was like, okay, I can see this now. And I think this is actually her first voice acting role, is in Breath of the Wild. She tweeted something about it, her being her first role.
Sure.
Which is a huge role. Like, that's a lot
for
of
your
pressure.
first role to have that.
I'm surprised if it's her first voice acting role, because that's a pretty major part of a pretty major game.
No, this is her first voice acting role, so
Nintendo's got to save that money.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of people's first voice acting roles.
Well, Eugene almost said in that new video series that they did 8 languages with all new voice actors for each language. So, I'm sure there's all languages that have better voice actors for certain characters, or maybe just better voice actors overall, including obviously Japan. But
see, I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't watch a lot of anime, but like, just Japan, like the way that they kind of, I don't want to say the way they speak, the way that they're acting is in their shows. It just doesn't do it for me, because it just feels like you're getting yelled at the whole time. Like, it's almost like,
well, some of
the
the shows you
louder
gotta be careful.
like,
Okay, some of those shows are way over the top.
You sound like my father.
There are some shows in Japan
It's like a lot of times
that it does sound like
when
they're
you're
yelling all
watching
the
anime,
time.
Like, you sound like my dad right there. Just side note, I was watching.
Well, and just a note, not all shows in Japan
like,
sound that way.
Why are they yelling? I'm like, "What do you mean, Dad?" He's like, "Why do the characters always have to yell?" I'm like, I don't know.
But like
let
it's
me
true.
watch
Like
this."
the louder that they talk and the faster they talk, it just comes across as yelling.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's because we don't understand or know the language.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Like,
and that's not ragging
yeah,
on,
no,
you know,
because
like
there was
any animes or whatever.
yeah, no, there was someone who I can't remember. A buddy of mine growing up came over from Bulgaria for a foreign exchange program, and barely knew any English. And every time he was around, like me and my buddies, he thought we were speaking like a million miles a minute and yelling all the time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I think that's just a language barrier thing. Like, because you
It
don't
is.
understand
I mean,
any of
fair
it,
enough.
it feels so fast and so loud. And you're just trying to
I
figure
think that's
it
why I
out.
like Zelda, because she's so understated and soft
Yeah.
in this game,
Yeah.
which I think some people kind of miss. Like maybe that comes across as apathy towards what she's reading for some people,
Sure.
but I don't know. It worked for me. I can
Well,
I can
there's-
see why people didn't like it.
There's literally a moment where she's apathetic in the cutscenes.
In the night cutscene?
memory, yeah, the first one.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that was by design.
No,
Because
no,
she's
it
like,
was.
"Ugh,
That's
I don't
she
wanna
was
do
supposed to
this."
be like that, and she conveyed it. And again, like I said, she started out like it took a lot of getting used to for me.
Mhm.
But eventually, I do really like her as a voice actress, and I hope that in the DLC, if there's more voice acting, they keep her along.
Yeah.
And just because that's the voice I'm going to associate with Zelda now.
Well, yeah, like that's
yeah.
the thing, and maybe that's why they went with so many new voice actors, it's because they want people to establish themselves as you are this character in this voice.
Yeah.
So like,
You know, that's a really good call.
so like,
yeah.
maybe your first go at it wasn't so great, but that's the voice it's going to be,
Yep.
and you're going to just get better and better. And because you're new at it, we also don't have to pay you a crap load of money.
That's true.
But we
Sign
can
them to
keep
that
you.
4-game
You
deal.
know, they can be like, oh, we have you on like a 5-game contract, and you're going to do all DLC. You know, and we only paid you like $100,000 or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So, and I know there has been some controversy out there. I know in the past with voice actors being underpaid and overworked. I don't think the voice actors in this game were overworked.
I don't think so. I
No,
Based
the
on
cutscenes are
the
like a
amount
minute
of
too, so-
dialogue, it's not even that bad. But it's one of those things that I am overall pleased with the voice acting. Because even when there was a voice that maybe I didn't like right away, by the time the game kept moving on, I liked it. It was one of those I just didn't imagine the character sounded like that initially, and then by the time I got done with it, okay, that's who the character is. You know, it's just like when you meet people in real life. I might have a preconception that this person's going to have a deep voice, but they don't. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
You can't change who they
That
are.
was the Deku tree for me. Took a little while to get used to that.
Well,
But
here's the thing. Like, I agree with that because, like, you know, when I look at a Goron, like the way that Daruk sounds is the way I imagine Darunia sounds. Just from how they look and being able to match those and associate that with each other. But even going on to, you know, oh gosh, what's the Gerudo's name? What's her name?
Urbosa.
I imagine them to have like a very refined kind of like I'm better than you type voice. And because that's what their appearance and that's how they act. And so
her voice kind of fit for me because I always thought they were kind of like in your face, like more so warriors, kind of, you know.
And even with Rivali, like the way that like it sounded like Falco because he had the same character type as Falco.
Don't try me.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, and I want more of
Yeah.
those characters. Like I'd love to have more of Rivali, Daruk, Mifa, and Urbosa. Like,
yeah,
fantastic
yeah.
characters.
So like, I haven't experienced the full gamut of voice acting yet because I just got to the Gerudo area. Only had one cutscene there, and I haven't even been to the Rito area yet. So you guys keep talking about Rivali, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait. But I just think back over the experiences I had, and I'm happy that Zelda's doing voice acting. But this is a criticism I had about the voice acting once I found out that it's only in cutscenes. It can't just only be in cutscenes.
I know.
The characters that have voices, everything needs to be voiced for that character. Like
I don't know if I
especially
agree
when
with that.
this is weird, right? Like the one that really threw me off is when you first meet Prince Sidon in the Zora area. He physically speaks to you.
Yeah, and then he stops.
And then all of a sudden, as you're traveling up to Zora's domain, he stops you like 3 or 4 times in what is a mini in-game cutscene to talk to you, and it's just text. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I agree that all those characters should be voiced all the time, but like when it comes to like, every single person in the game having a voice. I don't know if I want that yet.
Well,
'Cause
I don't think
then you run
every
into the
character
problem
needs
with
it.
Skyrim where like everyone sounds the
Yeah,
same,
yeah.
right?
I don't think they need to do it for everyone.
Well,
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're just talking like the main characters, then absolutely yes.
well, here's the
They
thing
should
with
have been
Breath of the
voiced.
Wild though, is that like there weren't just specifically like cookie cutter characters. Like you didn't have guards 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
had
Mhm.
They were all unique
each-
characters.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that there's really no excuse for not having voice actors for all of them, or at least like a small speaking role, because they maybe had like maybe 5 or 6 lines of dialogue each, and getting one person to do variations of their voice, like, and I don't think that Nintendo would ever do this, but if they got like Steve Bloom to voice maybe 5 or 6 of the guys, then
Get
that'd
the
be
cast
fine.
of The Simpsons in there.
Yeah, just get somebody, Billy West, Steve Bloom, Nolan North to do the generic voices of people at stables, that kind of thing. Just have that voice acting. But like Nate said, that was my biggest problem. Was the main characters had like a major speaking role, and then they stopped. And the only characters that had a full speaking role the entire time were Zelda, Rivali, Daruk, Urbosa, and Mifa. Because once you're in the Divine Beasts, you have a cutscene with each character, and then they guide you each time, and then you have a cutscene afterwards. So you always hear them. There's never a moment where you're not being talked to.
Yeah.
by them.
Well, that's because those characters either they're guiding you or it's a cutscene, and you have these other characters that talk to you in cutscenes. But like so much of the conversation you're going to have with that character is outside of cutscenes.
Well,
So-
it takes you out of the moment.
Yeah, it just threw me out. Like
It's definitely awkward.
Yeah.
It feels like those like Super Smash Bro intro videos where like it would go, he'd speak and then it's like, Prince Sidon is here to battle or whatever, and then it's just text. you
yeah,
know?
it feels like
It's weird.
It's almost like because this isn't Nintendo's first time doing voice acting, but like
No.
when like they did in Other M, obviously people didn't like it.
Well, this is again
And-
like we talked about before the game came out. This is a very it sounds terrible, but this is a Japanese way to handle voice acting in a JRPG-esque game.
Mhm.
Because there are scenes that are fully rendered, but I don't think that they were like fully rendered cutscenes in this game. It fit because you'd always be in costume that you were wearing and the sword and stuff. But then out of cutscenes would typically just be
Just a text schmozzle.
text, and that's the same thing. Like Ni no Kuni's the biggest offender of that. I say offender because that's one of my least favorite things that could happen in a game. But
Yeah, like I just want that consistency. Like
Mhm.
ideally, and I think I said this before the game came out. I don't remember if I said this at Nintendo Prime or at Zelda Informer, but I really wanted all characters to be voiced all the time. But at the same time, I realized this is Nintendo's first giant open world game. They're not doing that. It's not happening. It's expensive. Even if you have one guy doing 10 of the voices, it doesn't matter. It's expensive. It's not happening. But I always figured the characters that they have voice actors for, that they would at least try to voice act all of that. All of your interaction
That
with
was
that character.
weird.
And they didn't do that. So, like, if I have one thing, like, if Nintendo isn't going to go all in on voice acting, which I don't think they're going to, then in the DLC or in the next Zelda game, I think the characters that they have any sort of voice acting for, they need to just go all out for those characters. Because you can come up with an epic excuse like they had this time for Link not to speak, but if those characters already physically spoke to you, then you need to keep them talking. You can leave the text box up. That's
like
fine,
Samus needs to
but-
be talking in the next Metroid game, for example. Like once you've done that, you need to continue with that.
well,
It really rubbed me the wrong way that you couldn't turn off subtitles in the cutscenes. It was really distracting, and I just can't.
Yeah, and that
believe
was the thing.
that's not a
That's
thing,
why
you
I
know?
wanted voice acting, because I always felt that reading text during cutscenes takes me out of the
It's
cutscene.
distracting. That's probably my single biggest critique of the game. Is that you can't do something as simple as turn off subtitles. Actually, I'm gonna kind of segue here because I was gonna say
Sweet.
earlier. I was gonna give kind of a critique of the game as well. But first, before I do that, I'm gonna say like for story wise, like one of the things that I really admired about this game was like usually in Zelda games you have Zelda, who knows what she's doing. She's established. She has all of her powers in check, and it's Link building himself up to be the hero of time or the hero of whatever that comes and saves the land. So it's refreshing to see that kind of dynamic flipped on its head, where now Link is already ready to go, and Zelda can't get her mojo going. So that was really cool. But one of the things that like when we talk about Breath of the Wild spoilers, there aren't any really. Like when you think about it, like you basically go in, you fight Calamity Ganon, that's it. You don't really understand what Calamity Ganon is. You don't really understand how he took over the Guardians. You don't really there's a lot left unsaid. So I like, and half of me appreciates that because you can kind of fill in your own blanks
Mm-hmm.
and pick up on what you think happened and stuff like that. But like on the other side, like there isn't really like a huge, I guess like probably the biggest spoiler of the game would be Ganon at the end saying he's giving up on reincarnation.
That doesn't
Um,
happen though.
yeah, so I mean like there's no I guess like moment or something where like I was really worried about having this game spoiled for me, but like literally you go and fight Calamity again and that's it.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
like
I think
And
the
Hyrule is safe.
spoilers are basically what happened before the game happened.
yeah.
Um, and like
And even then, it's like we know that Link fell into battle and was asleep for 100 years. Like
But
we knew that.
we didn't know if where what that battle was, if it was with Calamity Ganon or if he was from a different timeline. The spoilers were primarily the memories
yeah,
and what you learned in the memories. There is something that I wanted to bring up though. You kind of touched on it. Is I want to discuss. There's two major things I want to discuss before we go. And this one was one of the ones that a lot of people had critiques about. Was that Ganon didn't have any characterization. Because in this game, pretty much everyone in the game had some sort of characterization to them. Whereas Ganon was just kind of this primordial evil force.
mm-hmm.
Well, and when I say there's no spoilers, that's kind of what I mean. Like I figured there would be some kind of method to like
It's
how did
really
he get to be Calamity
yeah,
Ganon? Or
yeah.
how did he get to be this
So
form
this is
or
what
whatever?
this
Right?
this is one aspect I thought was really weird about this game, right? So from what I know of the backstory so far, off the memories that I've got like over half of them done now, is that like I don't know when they first started digging up the Guardians, right? Or they first started preparing in case he came back. They really had no signs he was going to come back. They just read an ancient legend from 10,000 years ago and just started preparing for it to happen. And it was just really weird because if at least to me, the impression I got is that Hyrule's been in peace for a hell of a long time. So what happened to make them
Even
think
in game,
Ganon's
they
coming
say
back?
that it's peaceful.
Like, and they knew that Ganon was like trapped below the castle or something. There was some scene I remember where they said like they knew where he was, but like he hasn't been able to get out. And like those pillars that come up, we find out that's for using that those only pop up to help contain him.
Well, and that the thing too was even during that cutscene with Link, Zelda, and the King, he says something about princesses shouldn't be dealing with tools of war during peacetime or something like that.
Yeah.
So they all acknowledged that it was a peacetime.
Yeah, it's like so Hyrule's been in peace for a hell of a long time. Why are you preparing for a war? Like that's what I felt so weird about it. It's like why now? What?
I guess
there's a piece of the puzzle
that Ganon
missing.
will come back eventually, but how do they know exactly when? Like, did it say? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Did it say he comes back every 10,000 years?
No. That's the thing. Like it said like they read a legend about him about when he comes back. What some civilization did many years ago, and obviously what happened then hasn't actually happened in the game yet. Like we haven't seen a game that used Guardians and all this stuff. So so something happened in some timeline somewhere where they used the Guardians and the Sheikah and all this stuff, and it all went crazy, and the Divine Beast, and it all worked, and they stopped Ganon with the princess and the champions. So they were preparing to relive what they had to do back then with the Guardians and the Divine Beast and the champions and Link and Zelda. So they were preparing for this, but at the same time, the only criticism I have of this backstory given is that we're not given the key situation that occurs to make them feel like they need to prepare right now. Because it's like
well, exactly.
they've been in
I feel like
peace
you're
for
missing
what?
that character that kind of sparks.
Yeah,
the
like
whole
they've been
thing,
in
like,
peace
the
for
wizard
thousands
and
of
Link to the
years.
Past or whatever.
And for thousands of years, and even the king is saying like, "Hey, you shouldn't even worry about these things. Like we're in a time of peace." It's like, then why are you worrying about it, King?
I
So
think
I guess I was a victim kind of here of my own expectations because I figured like there's got to be someone pulling, or like maybe it's Ganondorf comes back and he is what's creating this Calamity Ganon, because I thought Calamity Ganon was
I
more
thought
of
they were
like,
going to cop out. I thought it was going to be like,
I thought he was going to be like a disease that someone has created or something,
yeah,
or something along those
yeah,
lines. You know what
yeah.
I
I
mean?
thought it was going to
I
be
just
like,
thought there would be an explanation or like a character that was making him so. Because I was of the mind, I'm like, oh yeah, when they port Smash Bros to Switch, they're gonna have extra characters, and the main bad guy in Breath of the Wild is gonna be one of them, and it's gonna be awesome. But like, there isn't like that. It's just Calamity Ganon.
yeah. I thought there was going to be like a
And
sign
Calamity Ganon is sweet, but
that like the reason they were starting to prepare for him is because something happened that was also in the old legends that happened before Ganon came back in the past. So, like, I don't know if it needed to be a character, but it needed to be something. Some sort of event.
the difficulty for
some
me,
kind of spark to get everything
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
And instead it was just,
difficulty for
we
me
think
is
he's
that-
going to come back, and then he showed up. It's like, oh, okay, what made you think he was... I mean, obviously you were right, he came back, but what made you think he was coming back now?
Well, it's weird that, again, like I said, that they don't have a characterization for Ganon, even though every character in this game has some sort of like characterization to them. So we even the small characters, and I think that we saw a little bit of a Marvel movie syndrome in the fact that the villain was more of a vehicle through which the story was told.
Perfect way to put it.
The villain being
And that doesn't bother me.
Villain.
No, it doesn't bother
in a game
me either,
like
but it would've been
Breath of the
nice.
Wild, it doesn't, because like I've had complaints about Ganon and Ganondorf in other games, but in this particular game it didn't, because it was very clear at least from the beginning when you were waking up in a resurrection chamber that a bunch of crap went down.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to know. Most people aren't going to know because it happened so long ago, even 100 years ago, thousands of years ago. So like I didn't care that I didn't expect there to be a whole lot of backstory for Ganon in this, especially when they said it's Calamity Ganon, and when he comes out, he's going to destroy the world. I'm like, okay, so this is like a Zelda 1 kind of thing. But it's one of those...
It definitely doesn't take away from the game.
No, it doesn't.
You know,
I just feel like even in the Marvel movies, right, where you kind of have the big bad guys are there, but they're just in the background. You just know they're eventually going to do something.
Yeah, sans Loki. Loki's pretty much the only character.
Yeah, but again, there is a driving force that makes them think this is going to happen. Like Loki is basically how they know aliens are going to invade, right? Like they know these bad things are about to happen because there's something driving them to think it. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it doesn't matter if Ganon himself does anything until the end. What matters is that having something that told the people that were preparing for him that it was going to happen. It would have been different to me if they didn't know. They weren't preparing for it, and then he just showed up, and that's why Link died.
So you're looking for more of an inciting incident into the conflict.
Yeah, like if it had just been Ganon came back, and like the whole time when they're talking about we're preparing, I initially thought he had already come back. Like, he came back, and now you're looking at the old legends trying to figure out how to stop him, and then you failed at stopping him. No, instead you were looking at the old legends preparing for if he came back, and then he started to come back, and then you really ramped up your efforts. But like, why were you starting those efforts in the first place? That's never a given.
It's a testament to Breath of the Wild that like it works as well as it does in spite of the lack of story.
And thanks.
Like, I get a lot of
now I know
flack for this,
I never
but
get an answer. I kept hoping that somewhere I'm going to get an answer.
And the thing is, I'm remiss to say this. I'm hoping I don't kill this.
Okay,
for you.
so hold on. So I get a lot of flack for this. I think Skyward Sword had probably some of the best like story moments in the series.
Well,
and that's where you get the feels from in that game, right? Like from the scene where Zelda goes to sleep, from the scene where Faye goes away. Like those give you those feelings in that game. But like for this game, you just get those tingly feelings. Like you get goosebumps when you see like the dragon, or when you.
I love the story in Breath of the Wild.
So that's why it works, and that's why the lack of the villain isn't
Yeah.
maybe a deal breaker where in other games it could have been.
Well, I just feel like
It's something that would have been
a,
nice, and it's something that could be addressed in DLC. Now that I'm thinking about it, actually, that'd be pretty sweet.
I feel like it's a missed opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's not like a deal breaker, like you said, but it's a missed opportunity. And it, again, it's a great game. I'm not saying that this is any points off of the game.
No.
But story-wise, it's a missed opportunity. Like, I had, for some reason, I had this idea in my head that there was, like, Calamity Ganon and then there was Ganon. And maybe I've just seen too many movies and too many shows, but I imagine, like, this old man being trapped in the middle of all this, being like, I've lost control of Ganon, or I've lost control of this, and you need to kill me, kind of a thing. So I had like this weird expectation in my head of the game, but I wanted some characterization for him, because even in A Link to the Past, there was characterization for Ganon. You had Aghanim. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name.
Close enough.
I never know how to say that.
You had him, and he was the personification of Ganon. He was basically the first precursor to Ganondorf that we were going to get, was him. And then Ganon talked at the very end of the game, and he had a personality. And so we know that the beast of Ganon exists with a consciousness of personhood. And I would have liked to see that somehow, like why it was doing what it was doing, aside from the fact that it was just this curse. Like, heck, even I'm so scared to spoil this for you, Nate.
It doesn't bother me.
Okay, even Fi had more characterization in Breath of the Wild than Ganon did.
Yeah.
And
it's fine.
Gosh, that
I totally thought that we were going to see Demise at some point.
No, I thought we were going to see Fi. There was a moment in the game, the final memory you get to, Nate. Just look forward to this moment. That's what I'm going to do for you. There's a final moment, like after you do all the memories, you get one final memory. And as Link falls in battle, and you're wondering what's going to happen, you hear the sound that Fi makes in Skyward Sword. And the sword talks to Zelda. You don't hear the voice, but you hear like Zelda responds to the sword.
Yeah, they're having a conversation.
And so you're very well aware that Fi is alive. And based on your knowledge from Skyward Sword, you're aware of who she is, where she's from. They always refer to her as the spirit of the sword, but it's obvious who it is.
And like if she, if she's coming out of the sword or speaking from the sword, that also suggests her bond on Demise is gone.
Yeah.
So
and she stopped speaking.
Maybe that's a hint towards the DLC.
Well, like, what do you guys think about that resurrection line that they threw out? How he's given up his right to or it's not resurrection, reincarnation.
When?
Like so when you're fighting Beast Ganon right at the end. When she says, I wrote this down. Hold on. He's given up on his reincarnation in order to manifest himself, basically. So like that to me tells me that we've seen the last of Ganondorf or Ganon,
that's
but
not
not
necessarily true, because.
But yeah, I don't know.
At the very end of the game, she says Ganon is gone for now, but we still need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Because the true ending of the game, there's a scene at the very end, after the very end, where Zelda is talking, and she says something like,
let's go to Zora's Domain or whatever.
Zora's Domain, because the Divine Beast Ruta isn't working, and we need to make sure that it's okay. Just in case, for when he comes back.
Yeah.
Also, we need to talk to the king about Mipha, so something like that. And so it's they're not entirely ruling out Ganon as returning.
That's why I was just confused why they threw that line in there.
It's weird because the game clearly hints that Ganon could come back, but then it also hints that Ganon stopped trying to reincarnate himself, so he could come back in his full beast form instantly. Because I don't know what his form would have been, if he had reincarnated. Maybe that is the form he reincarnates in, but he gave up on trying to maintain himself, as it were, as a being. I'm going to be this everlasting being. That's why I kind of where Andy's coming from, where it almost felt like he was giving up his everlasting life because no one, can't kill him. You're always sealing him. And it felt like, okay, instead of me trying to resurrect myself in a way where if I am defeated, I can come back anyways, it's no, I'm just going to put everything I have out there right now, which unfortunately for him, was basically a Death Star situation where you just stay away from the laser and you kill him.
Yeah.
Which was
And
it was kind of disappointing, but then it wasn't, because I felt like once you got to that point, like the battle before it was so difficult, at least for me, that when you got to that point, you really didn't have much left in you. To be honest.
Well, also he was. It kind of seemed like a last ditch effort on Ganon's part out of desperation to preserve himself.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna come out, have this giant laser thing. I know I'm slow. I know I probably can't.
I think it would have meant more too if you did have that missing link of like, this is the spark that instigated everything. It would have meant more. But see, if Ganon had some kind of characterization.
See, this is why I think, now that I know that basically Fi is still around, Fi whatever, that Fi Fo that does suggest, because Demise was never killed. Mm-hmm. Right? Demise was sealed within the sword, and Fi had to sacrifice herself as a being
to go to sleep
to go to sleep to keep Demise from ever coming back. And Demise's curse is obviously what led to Ganon, yada yada yada. That's all fine. That's all well explained. But it's like, if Fi is now starting to speak as of 100 years ago, that suggests that Demise might as well be on the verge of coming back. And if Demise and Ganon were back at the same time, we're fucked.
Mm-hmm. Now that's DLC I want to see.
Yeah. So like, it's one of those that like, yeah, they're preparing for the Ganon thing, but maybe Zelda's also like, hey, he doesn't know that I know that what I'm actually preparing for is something worse than Ganon.
Yeah.
But Link doesn't know that, so as a character, you just don't have that full memory because you don't know what Fi said, etc. So like, it's possible now that I know that's a memory, that like Zelda, she's saying to Link like she's preparing for Ganon to come back, but that's not really what she means. But she just doesn't know what else to say because she doesn't know how to stop Demise. So she's just doing what she knows.
I think the next Legend of Zelda game will be out within 2.5 years. Bold prediction.
I think
I'd like
the problem is, if they do DLC beyond this year, it's not happening in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I need to see where. Plus, I need to see where this DLC goes, because right now, I don't feel like things are really on a cliffhanger necessarily right now. It's more so okay.
I think the next game will be like a Majora's Mask style.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's hints. Like we just talked about a potential hint that there's something bigger than Ganondorf maybe coming. And Zelda knows it, but Link doesn't. So like, there's a subtle hint out there that there's more, but it's not really in a place where there has to be more. And I think the DLC, what's interesting about it is it says it has its own unique story, which we speculated a billion different ways they can go with that. But if that leads to, like, say it's seeing Zelda side of things, and that leads ultimately to us gaining new information to story that does leave it on a cliffhanger, not or a suggestion that something's coming.
Yeah. And
that's it, and you just think, oh, is it going to be DLC? And then all of a sudden next year they're like, bam! By the way, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out, next year. I could see them doing that because they might already have that. Like, they might be already thinking that far ahead, based on maybe they said, "Oh man, we hit a home run at E3 last year. This thing's gonna sell like crazy. Let's build on it and do the Majora's Mask thing like we did for Ocarina of Time, and just have it prepared. Like, not something we just do on a whim in a year. Like, let's just know what we're gonna do.
I think it's safe to say like the next game will be not like a main kind of series game, or maybe not safe to say, but that's my gut feeling.
We'll see with that. I mean,
I don't think it's going to be whatever they do next. If they do it in 2.5 years, it's not going to be as big as Breath of the Wild. But I do wonder if it's something that is going to build on top of Breath of the Wild, like almost like DLC in a way, but not.
Well, for all we know right now, they're only doing one DLC story for 2017.
Yeah, that's all
we don't know their future, and the future of the DLC could, like, if these are not just like maybe like 5, like maybe half an hour to an hour DLCs. If these are like Blood and Wine, Witcher 3 type DLCs, then we've got, we're safe with Breath of the Wild for a while.
That's what I'm hoping. When they say new unique story, that's when I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, like if we get...
Like, I almost expect it to be like Blood and Wine, and maybe that's unfair to Zelda to do that.
If we can get DLC for Breath of the Wild that could function as its own standalone game and win Best RPG of the Year, then that's wonderful. Something like that would be amazing.
DLC. What wins game of the year? Breath of the Wild or Breath of the Wild's DLC?
DLC.
The DLC took it all. Took the cake. Oh,
but yeah,
I'm so hyped for the All I know is the more I play of this game, the more I want to keep playing. And I think even once I 100% whatever's available in the game now, I'm still going to want to keep playing. And I think they knew that, which is why they announced DLC.
I'm going to tell you guys something absolutely disgusting. I have 150 hours into this game.
Yep.
I have all the shrines done. I have hundreds of Korok seeds. I have almost all the armor. I'm 35% done.
Yep.
That is disgusting.
Well, it's figuring out, what all the percentages mean. Like, okay, obviously, all the Korok seeds, all of the shrines, all the memories.
900 Korok seeds.
Yeah, so you have all of that, but that's clearly not it. Like, you have your armor upgrades. So, you might almost have some armor upgraded all the way, but do you have all of your armor upgraded all the way? Because that probably counts as your completion percentage. Maybe there's things out in the world you need to find. We didn't even get into the whole. There's that picture quest.
Yeah.
You need to take a picture.
I don't think that counts towards your percentage, but
it does.
I don't.
It does.
Think
it counts towards it.
It counts towards your percentage.
Well, that's probably why.
You have to have boss pictures.
So either get the pictures taken or find infinity rupees and just buy them off Rocky.
Yeah.
Because he basically has every picture in the game that you need. It's just
really the easy way to get money in the game is to get luminous stones. Get enough of those, bring them to the Zora, then get the diamonds from the Zora, get enough of those, and bring them to the Gerudo in Goron City, and you'll get
that Gerudo pays out the freaking nose. It's awesome.
But I think that I've been putting off getting to Ganon for a long time because I've been ready. I've had no excuse other than finishing the shrines. And today I was like, I should probably finish it before I do the podcast so we can talk about it. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. I didn't want it to end. Just because
it doesn't end there, my friend.
I know. It's just been so amazing so far. I just can't
Yeah, you don't want it to end.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is I heard some people saying that because as I was fighting and beat Calamity Ganon, I did it over a live stream. So I was sitting there chit-chatting with some Zelda fans, and they were like, yeah, I just did this fight the other day. It really wasn't that difficult, yada, yada. And then they watched me fight, and they're like, oh, man, this is a lot more difficult for you. Look how many hearts he's taken off when he does hit you. And I had all the ancient armor, and I had this and that. And I'm like, here's the thing. And this actually adds context to me to the overall story, even. So 100 years ago, Link basically faced off against Ganon in a champion shirt. That's what he faced off in.
And
that's what he's wearing. And the Master Sword. And the Master Sword's great. It can go up to 60 damage against him. That's great. It's not a terrible weapon. I used it for the fight because I just didn't want to deal with.
I used it because it felt thematically correct.
I didn't use it because it felt. I used it because one, it felt like this is the Master Sword. Come on, that's what it's for, right?
Exactly.
But on top of it, it's not even my highest damage weapon. And I kept thinking, there's no way. I've only done 30 shrines. I'm not breaking my highest damage weapon now. I'm like, I'll use the Master Sword and then I'll go to my high damage weapon if I'm not doing enough damage. Yeah. But anyway, so it made me realize that Link back then he had the Master Sword. I don't even know if he had a shield back then. I can't remember in the cutscenes. But he had the Master Sword and he had a champion shirt. That's what he faced off against Ganon. And all these people tell me, oh, it's easy. Well, when you have all the ancient gear, when you've got all 4 of the things working against him. Back then, that's not what happened. Back then, they didn't have the 4 divine beasts because Ganon sent out those calamity things that essentially killed all 4 of those champions, and then it was down to Zelda and Link. So Link didn't have any of their help. So he basically Link had the Master Sword, but went from the starting area to the boss in the first hour of the game. That's basically how the fight went 100 years ago. And if you do that in this game, you can win. There are people who have pulled it off without the Master Sword, mind you. But it's a very difficult fight. Way more difficult then than it is after you beat the 4 beasts and you're geared up and you have all this stuff. So I think what was nice about this fight is that, yes, it can be easy if you are over-prepared, which they were not over-prepared.
Yeah, it's all about what you put in. I mean, and that's pretty much the theme for the game. Like the enemies are here for the game. Sorry, you guys can't see this, but I'm doing this on the video. So the enemies are here. You start off here, and eventually you get up to here, and the enemies are still kind of somewhere in that middle. So they don't really scale to you, but if you put in the effort, you can kick ass.
It's a Majora's Mask scenario based on how much you complete of the game is how the boss battle is going to go for you. Because if you got every single mask in Majora's Mask and then you got the fierce deity at the end, man, you can breeze through Majora like that. Like that was probably one of the easiest boss fights I did, because first time I played that game, I 100%ed it. So I was like, well, I've got all the masks. I'm gonna get the fierce deity mask, and I'm just gonna take this thing down. And that's just been how I've taken.
Yeah, that was just game. Like a 3-minute spanking if you had that mask.
And it's the same kind of thing with Breath of the Wild. Like you do all of those. The Divine Beast, you get all this stuff that you need, and then you take on Ganon. It's not necessarily unfair because you've put in the work for it. So honestly, fighting the Blights were one of the harder parts of the game. Aside from Windblight Ganon was freaking easy. You just take him out with the bomb arrows.
So I thought the first Blight was hard, and then they got progressively easier. Like obviously, as I got progressively better.
Well, what did you start with?
The first Blight kicked my ass.
Like, because you can do them out of in different orders. Like, I did Windblight first, and then I think I did Fire Blight, and then Water Blight, and then Earth Blight. And then Water and Earth were the hardest ones for me. Just because it was so difficult.
Yeah, I had no problem with the Water one. That's the one with the Zoras, right? I don't remember the name yet. That was the very first one I did. And, okay, so before I even went to the Zora area, I'd already done, 20 plus hours of exploring and did shrines and already did Eventide Island. So I was massively outgeared for the Zora area. By the time I got there and things were hitting me for a quarter heart, I'm like, okay, I guess I should have been here first.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I was breezing through everything, got to the boss, and I don't even think that boss ever even hit me. How to beat it was so obvious. That I just never it was never a problem. I had a harder time just getting to the boss doing the dungeon than the actual fight. And it's just because the dungeon, you got to figure out the puzzle, where to shoot the water, blah blah blah, and that's fine. That was great. I thought those puzzles were brilliant, but that actual fight wasn't that difficult to me. I did the Goron one next. That one, I'm trying to even remember. That one, I remember being a little bit more of a challenge because I had a hard time hitting it with an arrow. Because the previous one, I literally just basically arrowed it down and just smashed away. It was just shoot it in the eye, swing away, shoot it in the eye, swing away. It really wasn't that hard.
The Fire Blight Ganon was a little difficult because he would put up a shield or he'd move around too fast.
Yeah, so I first faced those ones at the castle right before the Ganon fight, which I guess I knew was going to happen. I just hadn't really watched videos on those particular two. So the wind one, turned out it wasn't that hard. The first time I faced it. The second time I actually died to it because I was being dumb. I just figured I was going to cheese through it and call it a day because I just destroyed it before, and all of a sudden it did moves I didn't see before, and I'm like, oh well, all right. But that fire one sucked until that's when I started. Once that fire one, the second time I fought it, I realized I need to get good at this because I'm going to need to do it for the Ganon fight. And basically, it was that. Not only did he have the shield, right? It was, you got to destroy the shield, yada, 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 that's fine. But when he did that zip around thing and smash you in the face, I started realizing, because I kept relying on the Daruk thing to break that.
Yeah.
I started realizing all I have to do is face where he's coming from, because he's going to come at you from that same angle, and just hold your shield up, and then he runs into you. But once I figured that out, I'm like, oh, well, this fight's not that hard now.
Yeah, it's all about finding the patterns in the bosses, and even in Ganon at the very
end. And what I realized, because what I started doing with it, I started timing, putting my shield down right when he strikes, because if you do that, it works as a parry. And I was practicing that with him, because I remembered that you could parry back, the shots from
Guardians.
From Guardians, because I had done it one other time during the game, and I was like, okay, well, I know Ganondorf shoots those beams. I wonder if I could do that to him, instead of trying to do the jump dodges, because when I watched the guy speedrun it, I saw him for that part of the fight. He never threw the beam back at him because he never had a shield basically.
Yeah.
So he was always
Mhm.
jump dodging. So that's what I was trying to do, and I suck at that. Then I'm like, well, I have shields that can hit this stuff back. Why don't I just use those? So I was trying to practice that mid fight. Got myself hit a couple times, but whatever.
Yeah.
It was worth it. I don't know. I find myself loving this game. I'm doing a review of it for my other site, since apparently our masses doesn't want us to do a review of Zelda for some reason.
We can do it on here. We can do whatever we want on here.
Yeah, we do whatever we want in the
It's tough to
podcast.
do
This
a review
is the
'cause
review.
It'll mean such different things to such different
Like we
people,
talked about all these
so.
things that it could do better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still coming away right now, over 40 hours in, only 10% of the game, 11% of the game done. And my impression already is this might be my favorite game I've ever played. I am more engrossed into this game than I think I've ever been engrossed into any other game I played in my life.
I don't know if I would say, like, I don't think it's my favorite Zelda, but I don't think it
Okay.
ever could have been, because it just I'll always have that attachment to
Sure.
Ocarina of Time, you
Sure.
know. So, but this is maybe the best Zelda, in terms of what it does, in terms of everything that it's going for.
Yeah,
Would
like
be kind of my final thoughts about how I would categorize Breath of the Wild.
yeah. And I didn't think anything for me could ever top Zelda 2 in the Zelda series, let alone some of my other favorites. And then I didn't think anything would ever top Secret of Mana for me as like my favorite game. Like there's just nothing could top that. And part of that's obviously because of the age I played those games at. Not that they're not fantastic games still, but I have even fonder memories because I grew up on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I don't think anything can really match that. And the entire time I played this game, and I was talking to my buddy Eric about it, I feel like I am a kid again playing video games when I play this. I feel like I've played a ton of open world games. Like none of these mechanics Zelda's doing is 100% new to gaming. But while I play this game, it gives me the same feelings I got playing games growing up. And I didn't realize until this game how much I have just not felt that way about a video game since I was a kid. And that's why when I'm like, so far, like I can't give a final judgment right now if it's my favorite game of all time quite yet, because I gotta complete it. Okay, like I can't just it tops Secret of Mana because it's the game I'm addicted to right now. But it's one of those things where right now is a feeling that I don't know if I'm ever going to get again in video games. Like it took me 20 years or whatever to get back to this feeling in a game again, and I've been playing games this whole time.
Well, it's kind of based on your preference for what you look for in a game and what you look for in a story. And I'll kind of wrap it up with this because we need to cut it short tonight. And I think that when it comes to gaming and when it comes to pretty much any type of media, your personality, your worldview, and your values are reflected in what you see in the game. So, like, whenever I look at Wind Waker, when I write editorials on Wind Waker, I project unknowingly and unwillingly, but it happens, my bias and my worldview into that game, and I view those characters through that type of worldview. And so it means different things to me. And so, like Andy said, Ocarina of Time is still his favorite Zelda game, and that's fine. Like, you can have a favorite Zelda game that's not Breath of the Wild. That's not a bad opinion. There's no such thing.
Yep.
And so, like, for me, this is it's a fantastic game. I absolutely love Breath of the Wild. I haven't walked away feeling the same way I have about other games of Breath of the Wild. Like, I didn't just sit back and go, like, man, I'm blown away by this in terms of the story. But, like, just the overall impression of the game is amazing. Like, for example, I finished a long time ago, like, back when it ended, I'm a huge fan of Gravity Falls. It's probably my favorite show. At the season or the series finale of that show, I sat back and I cried because I was like, man, that story and that show was just blew me away. And I know everyone's going to have that response, and that's fine. I just think that when it comes down to gaming and to any type of media, it's what you like and what you value out of it. And so when you could say that you don't like certain things in Breath of the Wild, and people are going to get mad at you for it. It's not a big deal. You can go screw them. everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody's got their own views on stuff. At the end of the day, really, Breath of the Wild is an amazing game. Don't let anyone tell you it's not, because it's fantastic.
I think its Metacritic score alone is going to tell you that there is. I mean, a lot of it's subjective, but like there is objective proof that this is an amazing game.
And it's great. It's you could say it's your favorite game or not. You could say it's your favorite Zelda game or not. It's amazing. And it definitely is something that Nintendo should be proud of, and they should look at this game for future Zelda games. They should be like, well, this was such a great game. Whether or not everyone liked it, this is something that we should do more of with these types of ideas. And I really hope they walk away with that. I really hope that they take this. I was thinking about this today when I was eating dinner with my fiance. It's just like, I really hope Nintendo looks at the fan response to this game and says, this is what we need to do going forward. In terms of just games in general, with what they do, how they.
I was gonna say, I kind of hope that it's unfair, but I kind of hope that this kind of sets a bar for Nintendo's approach to their games on Switch. Mm-hmm. That hopefully Mario Odyssey is going to prove.
Yeah.
Look back on what you've done
already set the bar,
and find a way to flip it on its head.
Yeah. And so I'm just looking forward to the future of Nintendo now, and a lot of people are down on the Switch for whatever reason, but I think that we're seeing a very kind of a reformation of Nintendo in terms of their approach to game. Well, for now, for what we've got in this in March in this block with Zelda and the Switch, how they're handling
the next
it.
year will definitely be telling to see because it looks good now, but is that gonna
exactly? But I'm just saying, we're seeing the start of something good. Let's hope they continue that.
Well, the thing is, we know there's a lot of good coming down the pipeline too. Yeah. At least we hope. Like I know some people are like, oh, they should have just ported Splatoon instead of making Splatoon 2. Well, we don't know everything about Splatoon 2 yet.
Yeah.
For all we know, it is a worthy sequel to Splatoon. Mm-hmm. And it is going to have that thing that makes you think, oh, we needed another one. You just don't know yet.
On Switch specifically.
Yeah, like ARMS. We don't even really know what that game is. I mean, we do, but we don't. A lot of people think it's just a gimmick thing, but is it? Because people who play it say it's pretty dang fun.
Well, and you can play it. It looks
like a fun drinking game, if nothing else.
Yeah, and and we know things like they've doubled down on RPGs. We have another Xenoblade coming already. Mm-hmm. What?
A proper sequel.
Holy crud! And that's not to diss the last Xenoblade game they made. It's just that game just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I forgot to mention this at the start of the show, and I'm gonna mention it now because I gotta get going here, guys. Yeah. But one thing that I do want to say is if you're listening to this podcast and you've stuck it out through past the spoilers now, send in some screenshots. We're starting a thread at Zelda Informer. It's gonna just use a hashtag. You can see the post on the site. Take your screenshots. It'll be updated periodically. So I've been taking some really cool pictures or whatever that I'm really proud of. So. Shared a few of those, so if you have any cool shots, tweet them and we'll put them on the site.
Sweet, I might tweet some too.
So yeah, man. Enjoy the game, enjoy the Switch, enjoy life, love each other, be good to each other. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But yeah, well, there's a topic we didn't get to, but there's a topic I really want to talk about, and it's going to get kind of political next week.
Oh boy!
So look forward to that.
Might be skipping that podcast.
I'll be there.
Yeah, look forward to that one. And we'll see you guys next week.
All right. See you guys.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.